31 million euros. That is the annual salary of Mbappe and Haaland, two of the most important stars in the world. Others like Kane, Salah, Lewandowski, or Vinicius receive between 20 and 25 million. But is it really a lot of money? How does it compare to other professions? An elite surgeon in the United States earns on average 1 million euros a year. An academic makes around 400,000, an airplane pilot 600,000, and someone in the financial sector earns 2 million a year. Perhaps the role that comes closest at present is that of an artificial intelligence engineer. Companies like Meta and OpenAI pay salaries exceeding $10 million per year. The truth is, to find employees earning more than football players, we need to look at the CEOs of the world's most important companies. While Andy Jassy, the director of Amazon, received 37 million euros in 2024, Tim Cook of Apple received no less than 69 million. Although, if we look at specific cases, football has one that's completely out of place. We are talking about none other than Cristiano Ronaldo. He earns no less than 210 million euros per season at Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia, more than double the salary of the person who runs the company behind the iPhone, and 6 times more than Mbappe. It's absolutely mad. However, the interesting thing is that all the numbers we saw regarding the players only refer to the base salary. We did not consider other factors that could increase their reward or, it must be said, decrease it. To really understand how much a football player takes home, we propose the following. Let's imagine for a moment that our dream of signing our first contract as a professional player comes true. In that document, besides the base salary, we will find 5 other elements that will significantly change the final amount we end up receiving. The first 4 are good news for our football player self. The last one, however, is the villain of the story, and believe us, it matters much more than it seems. But let's start with the happy part of the story. The first element is the signing bonus. Basically, it's an amount the club will pay us for signing the contract. Yes, you heard right, just for making a doodle on a paper. The institution's intention is none other than to tempt the player. While there's often much mention of this bonus when they change teams, the reality is that it can also be present during a renewal. One of those who has benefited the most from it is Kylian Mbappe. In 2022, PSG had to shell out 130 million to renew with them. Again, not counting salary or anything else, just for the commitment. 2 years later, when he signed for Real Madrid, the Whites had to guarantee him 125 million through this route. To see how absurd these numbers are in the economy, the company Meta reportedly offered $100 million bonuses to OpenAI employees to switch companies, and no one could believe it. In a big football club, that's just an ordinary transfer market. Following the path of our first professional contract, the next point to consider is the loyalty bonus. As the name suggests, it's money paid for being loyal to the club. In practice, it means honoring the contract until the end. You're probably wondering, wasn't the signing bonus and signing fee meant for that? Well, no. As you may know, it is normal for players to receive other offers during their contract. The purpose of this bonus is to discourage the move to another institution. For example, if we only have 1 year left on the contract, it might be better to stay until the end and receive that reward. Mbappe, once again, played his cards perfectly in this regard. In 2024, thanks to honoring his contract with PSG until the end, he would have earned between 60 and 80 million euros. An interesting point, if you think about it, is that the signing bonus and the loyalty bonus compete with each other. While the first one rewards us for signing a new agreement, the second one does so for staying until the end of the current one. So, when another club wants to hire us halfway, their signing bonus must be high enough to counterbalance the loyalty bonus we would be giving up. Obviously, when a team sees that it has a promising football player, like we could easily be, it gets ahead of those potential offers and already proposes a future signing bonus for a possible contract renewal. It's a real reward party. Well, up to this point, if we get a decent agent and negotiate in our favor, we will have already secured a good amount of money. A portion for the base salary, another amount for signing the agreement, and one more for staying until the end. The most striking thing is that until now, we haven't even entered the playing field. We could easily be terrible and have deceived the organization. That's why clubs tend to tie part of the compensation to performance. This is what's known as performance bonuses and represents the third aspect of the contract. For instance, if we're forwards or midfielders, we can be rewarded for goals and assists. Mohamed Salah signed a bonus of £2.5 million if in one season he reached 35 by adding goals and assists. Cristiano Ronaldo, in addition to the unusual figure we saw at the beginning, receives 94,000 euros for each goal and 47,000 for each assist. It's absolutely mad. Returning to performance bonuses, if our focus is more on defense, don't worry. We will also have rewards. Van Dijk at Liverpool could earn up to £750,000 for keeping 22 clean sheets. And if we're talking about not conceding goals, we have to talk about goalkeepers. According to various sources, Gianluigi Donnarumma agreed on bonuses with Manchester City of up to £3 million for, among other things, keeping a clean sheet. In other cases, you don't even need to score or achieve undefeated streaks. Just adding minutes is enough. And believe us, those rewards can change a player's life. That was the case with Kieran Richardson in the year 2002. He was an 18-year-old who was at Manchester United but did not yet have a professional contract. This meant his salary was barely £180 per week. Even so, Alex Ferguson called him up for the substitute bench in a Champions League match. There, with the score already decided, he sent him in. The footballer remembers that seconds before the match ended, the coach said, "Kieran, get on the field right now. No warm-up. Referee, do it now. Let him in." The reason for all this was that Ferguson knew the boy didn't have a professional contract, and the bonus he would receive if he participated in the match. That month, instead of £180, 12,000 were deposited to him. Finally, bonuses can also be collective. Real Madrid, for example, would have agreed to pay €1 million to each player if they were crowned in the 2025 Club World Cup. Sometimes, prizes go beyond money. In 2016, the executives of Leicester City promised a BMW i8, a sports car valued at €135,000, to each footballer if they won the Premier League. And believe it or not, when journalists asked then-manager Claudio Ranieri if he would at least get a used car, he replied, "Some gifts are only for them, none for me. I want to talk to the owner." This is how, depending on the position we play, the club will offer us various bonuses and prizes that will only increase the final amount received. And there ends the strictly sports-related part of our contract. But, as you know, we players have an impact that goes far beyond the playing field. What happens with us when we are not wearing sports gear has become increasingly significant. And with that, there is an asset that has started to gain special relevance: the well-known image. That's our fourth element in the contract. Specifically, when we talk about image rights, we're referring to the control we have over how our face, voice, name, or any element that identifies us is used. Technically, all humans have these rights. The only difference is that, in most cases, they hold no value. Nowadays, football players even trademark their celebrations. And if not, ask Cole Palmer, who did it with his famous celebration. To understand the agreement the soccer player reaches with the team about this, it's worth breaking it down into two parts. On one hand, its use in the sports field, photos to promote the club's jersey, official presentations, the team's social networks, and so on. All of this is included in the contract, and usually, full control is given to the club for these purposes. Then we have everything that happens outside of football itself. Here, we mainly refer to advertising campaigns with various brands. These rights tend to be outside the sports contract. That is, we, as players, keep 100% of the profits and decide what to do with them. Unless, of course, there is a special clause through which we have given up a portion of the club's profits. Why would we do this? Well, because it's also true that part of our image's value is directly associated with the institution we are part of. Being part of Real Madrid is not the same as a third division club. That's why the Spanish team usually adds a condition through which it keeps a share of the extra football income. David Beckham was the first iconic case of this, and the percentage taken by the institution was 50%, a standard for several who would come after. Currently, the figure depends on who it is. Mbappé, for example, would only give 20% to the club, since he had an established personal brand before arriving there. This is how we analyze all the ways we can generate income as a professional player: a base salary, bonuses both for signing and for staying until the end, performance-related bonuses, and exploiting our image in various ways. Thanks to all of that, a huge gap can be created between the initial figure and the final amount. In the case of Mbappé, for example, those 31 million annually could become as much as 85 million, depending on the results. It's absolutely mad. However, if we were lucky enough for Kylian to show us his bank account at the end of the season, the reality is that we wouldn't find that number. First of all, because signing the contract is one thing, and actually receiving the funds is quite another. Payment deadlines can be considerably different from when income is recorded. Messi, for instance, had outstanding accounts with Barcelona until the year 2025, 4 years after leaving the institution. The second reason why the figure will be drastically different is related to the character we have been avoiding from the start: taxes. That is the fifth major element in our contract. It is a crucial point, not only because it will affect the amount we end up receiving, but also because it can determine which club we end up playing for. It's clear that there's no topic more boring than than taxes. But trust us, it's worth looking into. In football, just like in any other field, athletes must give the government a percentage of their earnings. If we look at the major European leagues, we find that players usually allocate no less than between 45 and 50% to this category. This means that out of every €2 that Real Madrid gives to Mbappé, 1 is taken by the Spanish state. However, the key point here is that countries can regulate it as they wish. And this is where something as tedious as taxes can determine where a footballer ends up. Imagine this hypothetical situation. There are 2 teams willing to hire us, one Italian and the other English. Both offer us an annual gross salary of 20 million euros. But let's assume that while the Italian state takes 50%, the English one only takes 10%. This will result in, at the end of the day, the figures entering our pocket being diametrically different. While in Italy we will have 10 million, in England it will be 18 million. Let us remember that both clubs are willing to spend the same. The problem is that, on our side, we will have more incentives to go to the Premier League. The government ultimately can decide whether the current superstar can join your club or not. For that reason, countries have implemented tax benefits to attract football players. The Cressida decree in Italy, for example, allowed newcomers to pay taxes on only half of their income, or the famous Beckham law in Spain, which was used to attract the star after whom the regulation was named. Javier Tebas, president of the league, clearly explained how these laws influenced Ronaldo's decision to join Juventus. His move to Italy benefits him because he will earn more money than here. On an international level, in Spain, we have the problem of not being able to compete from a fiscal point of view. When it comes to having the same salary offer from Real Madrid, Ronaldo gets more net in Italy. Currently, the most favorable case in this regard, perhaps to no one's surprise, is Saudi Arabia. There, in addition to the unusual figures they offer for gross salary, the income tax is 0%. Yes, 0. Everything goes to the player. Therefore, taxes are a big topic when it comes to understanding football contracts. So much so that many players delegate their image rights to companies to pay less tax. Some of them, it must be said, are pushing the legal boundaries with this. If you want us to cover it in another video, let us know in the comments. Now that we've taken this journey dreaming of becoming a professional player, I suggest we come back to reality and see how it all looks in a specific case. Don't worry, we won't use Tevez with Manchester City. Let's take what was one of the most lucrative contracts in the sports industry, Lionel Messi's latest renewal with football club Barcelona. As revealed by the newspaper El Mundo, the Argentine's agreement started with a base gross salary of 72.25 million euros per year. That, multiplied by the 4 seasons, would be 289 million. From there, they began to play the other paths we learned throughout the video. First, the Argentine enjoyed a signing bonus of 115 million euros. Secondly, there was also a loyalty bonus, which amounted to 77.9 million, one that, as we know, was achieved. The third element we mentioned on a theoretical level was the performance bonuses. In this sense, Messi had several operating at the same time. Here are the most important ones. 1.9 million if he played 60% of the matches in the season. Another 1.9 million if the team qualified for the Champions League. 4.2 million if they won the Champions League. 2.8 million if they lifted the local league trophy. And 696,000 if he won the best FIFA award. All these games meant that, with a perfect season, the star could earn an additional 11.5 million. Taking all this into account, salary, bonuses, and incentives, the Argentine's 4 seasons in Barcelona meant a potential 555 million euros gross. Absolutely mad. However, as you know from what we just talked about, that's not the amount Lionel took home. Taxes still need to be deducted. At this point, given the number of details to consider, calculating it manually would require another entire video. The result is that if those 555 had been collected, some 275 million euros would have ended up with the state. We're talking about practically 50%. Still, the deal meant close to 70 million net per season. That represents 5.8 million per month, 194,000 per day, and more than 8,000 euros per hour. I don't need to say it. Seeing these figures, there is no doubt. Being a footballer is one of the best paid professions in the world. And most importantly, nothing indicates that it will change in the near future. Don't forget to subscribe, and any comments you want to make, we will read them. See you next time.